Welcome, golfers, to the 25th episode of the Read It, Roll It, Hole It podcast. Super excited today. We have Jeff Smith. Jeff is one of the sort of best top instructors in the US. He's worked on tour for many years, and he's got some sort of fantastic players on the books. And really looking forward to diving into the life of Jeff Smith. So welcome, Jeff.
Hey, yeah, thank you for having me.
No problem at all. Hopefully we haven't woken you up too early this morning.
No, I'm just getting my coffee in right now and ready to do it.
Brilliant, great stuff. So Jeff, to start with, obviously you've been a tour coach for many years now, and a top 100 teacher for golf.com. Is that right?
Yes.
How did
absolutely.
that come? How did that come about?
The top 100 teacher? I'm not sure. Not even sure how it came about. Just lucky enough to be honored by Golf Magazine, amongst my peers, and pretty cool honor.
Absolutely. And whereabouts are you based, did you say?
Yeah, I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada, at TPC Summerlin.
Nice. Las Vegas. I've never been to Las Vegas. Is it a place you should go?
Absolutely. Everybody should visit it at least once. It's a lot of fun. A lot of stuff going on here.
What I was going to say, why? What's going on in Las Vegas?
Vegas is sort of known as the entertainment capital of the world. Tons of concerts, shows, professional sports now. We have professional hockey. We have professional football. The Raiders moved here. So it's a booming city right now. And a lot of people are moving here at the moment from surrounding states, California, Arizona. So everybody's kind of flooding to Las Vegas. So pretty big population, almost 2 million people. And there's always something going on. There's a lot of golf here too. So that makes it even better.
Happy days. Well, it sounds, obviously I've seen it on telly and heard about it. So one day I must, come over the pond and try it out someday. and meet
you can also, I've heard you can also gamble if you'd like to.
Sounds good. Happy days. Well, we might talk a little bit about gambling later, because I know it's a past job or hobby of yours. Well, job, I think it was. So we'll come on to that. To sort of start us off then, Jeff, just talk us through what does a normal week in the life of Jeff Smith look like? Now, COVID, normal, probably don't go in the same conversations, but I imagine you sort of have some weeks on tour and some weeks not on tour. So talk us through a non-tour week, and then talk us through a tour week, if you don't mind.
So I'm probably on the road at tour events about 20 weeks out of the year. And then I'm probably traveling another 4 or 5 weeks, give or take, just to see other clients around the country or world, that for that matter. So I'm probably on the road about 25 weeks a year. So half the year is spent away from home. So
wow.
On tour, I have 3 guys full-time on the PGA Tour, 4 or 5 guys on the Korn Ferry Tour at the moment. And then about 30, I think the last count was like 31 players playing Division I college golf. So that doesn't, include probably another 50 or so mini tour type players that are playing on various developmental tours. So I stay very busy with that. An average week on tour for me it's pretty simple. I'll generally travel on like a Sunday night or a Monday morning, get to the tournament site, depending on if my guys are going to be making Monday a work day or not. Sometimes they take Mondays off if they've just played the previous week and they're traveling. But a lot of times we're putting in work late in the afternoon on a Monday. So generally I'm working with the guys Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I will watch them play. I like to walk and watch my guys play on tour on Thursday, and then see if they need anything after the round. And then I'm generally flying out Thursday night. The bigger tournaments, the majors, that kind of stuff, I'll typically stay all week. But that's a typical sort of agenda for a tour schedule. And then when I'm at home, because I'm on the road so much, my lessons get pretty backlogged. So I pretty much teach, I would say in the summer, probably 10 hours, 11 hours a day. And then during, daylight savings time, winter months, I'm probably teaching 6 or 7 hours a day. So I stay probably busier when I'm at home because I have a sort of a backlog of clients I'm trying to get to versus being on the road. Being on the road is almost like a little mini vacation.
Happy days. Well, it sounds like you certainly keep busy. Tell us about the three guys you coach on the tour. Tell us about those three and perhaps how's 2020 been?
Yeah, so Aaron Wise, one of the players I work with, I've worked with him for a long time, since high school. He's off to a great 2021 season, whatever you want to call it. Finished second at Mayakoba. So he's had a great fall. He's off to a great start, and coming off a bit of a slump from last year. Really kind of went through some putting woes that kind of derailed his season a bit, but he's got that very, very well organized at the moment and playing great. So I look forward to, all the stuff he's going to do in the, at start of the new season. And then Patrick Rodgers is another player that I work with. I've been with him for about 3 years now, just shy of that. Coming off a season where he's made, the most cuts that he's ever made in his career. And he also had a little bit of a wrist injury that set him back the previous season and took him out of play. But I thought with sort of the COVID schedule, he played very, very consistently when the startup came back. And I love what he's doing in his game. We're past the point of swing changes and stuff like that. And now it's moving on to, some of the finer points in his game, wedge play and short game and things of that nature. And then the last one, which is a relatively new client for me, I started working with him in late August, right before the playoffs, is Victor Hovland. And Victor's a lot of fun to work with. He's a fun guy. We have a lot in common away from the golf course. He likes to play poker. I like to play poker. So he comes out to Vegas and we spend time together and we work on that. But excited to see how our sort of relationship has started. He's very, very eager to learn. He understands his game really, really, really well and knows where the areas are that he needs to improve. And we've been sort of attacking those areas and, luckily got off to a hot start and with a win in Mayakoba. And his 2021 is set up for, a big year. He's got, his world rankings in a spot to where he's going to be in all the majors. He's going to be in all the big tournaments. So he's going to, be able to pick and choose kind of where he plays. I know he'll probably be balancing some type of schedule in Europe, preparing, trying to earn those Ryder Cup standings points. And so he's a guy that has won twice already. And, the next evolution in his game is being competitive in the majors and trying to win one of those.
Exciting. Let's say, three very sort of exciting players there, young sort of guys coming forward. So that must keep you sort of keep you buzzing for sure. But I'd like to come back to them with a little bit more detail on you talk about Aaron Wise's putting woes or Patrick Rodgers' different part or perhaps even Victor with his aim point. I've seen him do a bit of that.
Yeah.
Before we go on to that, how do you as a coach manage different personalities? They sound, I don't know the guys, but they sound like they come across as very different. I'm sure they are in many ways, different countries, yeah. Some of them. So to talk us through, what do you do as a coach, consciously or subconsciously, to work on that relationship?
Yeah, I think, experience helps with that. Being out on tour for a number of years now and working with, over 30 PGA Tour players, you kind of learn a little bit on the fly of what resonates with different players. And, I go back to, I credit Grant was one of the first players that ever took me, first guys that ever took me out to coach on the PGA Tour to help with some of his players. And, he said something to me at the time that really resonated, and I'll never forget it. And he's like, Jeff, it's different out here. This is not an IQ contest. You're not out here to show these guys like how smart you are and how much you know. It's your job to make them play better, like right now, this week, under the pressure of knowing that in 48 hours or 24 hours, they got to go tee it up for a living. And so that always resonated with me. And I tried to remember that as I was taking on new clients and working with different players. And yeah, you're exactly right. The different personalities, the younger generation, the Aaron Wises of the world, Patrick Rodgers, they want to, the Victors, they want to know the information. They want to know how everything works. They're used to technology. They want to understand. And when you tell them to do something, you're going to get a why, response. Why do you want me to do that? How is that going to help me hit it better or putt it better or chip it better? And so you got to be armed with the information to go deeper, sort of peel back the layers a little bit and go deeper and explain to them why, that change may be worth, their investment. And so, but then, I've worked with guys like Scott Piercy who are, so he's so talented that he was more like, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I'm good enough with my feels. I can go do it, and so you have to have a little bit different language that you use with all the players. With the younger generation, I might use a little more technical terminology. So sort of medical terminology, if you will, things like flexion, extension, blah, blah, blah. And then with, a more veteran type player, you might just say, hey, bow your wrist, or, don't cup your wrist or something like that. So you have to kind of evolve your terminology a little bit. You have to know how much they can handle in terms of information, especially during a tournament week. And then you learn from that. So every time we give a lesson, I hate to say it, but it's a bit of trial and error. It's, how much can they take on? What kind of capacity do they have for this? How much can they process? And then how much can they execute on, during the tournament? So that, as a coach, that just comes with experience. And sometimes you don't get it right. Sometimes you screw it up and you give them too much information, and they're out there thinking, and they've got all these thoughts going on, and you can see it. You can see it on their face in the warm up. You can see it, and they're on the first tee in their execution, and you got to backpedal and get that organized a little bit better.
Fascinating. That's good. That's a great insight there. Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, interesting stuff. That's made me think, stop and think. So yeah, thank you for that. That's good. Okay, so just going back to Aaron Wise, you talk about his putting. You said he was struggling a little bit. Obviously, being a putting coach, I'm very interested to know the ins and outs. Obviously, only share what sort of you're comfortable with. But can you go into a bit of detail on what those putting woes were and how you went about fixing them?
So it's going to get a little technical here, but I know you guys, your viewers are very educated, so they'll probably hear it and understand it. I'm trying to put my finger on exactly where the struggles began, but I believe it was coming out of the West Coast swing, playing a series of tournaments, in California on Poana. It can be a little bit tricky to putt on. Balls are really bouncy, and players start to adapt their strokes to kind of putt on those types of greens. But it really kind of surfaced coming out of the West Coast swing. He got very uncomfortable over the ball. It felt like he wasn't seeing, where he was aiming wasn't his perception of where he was aiming wasn't reality. That bled into sort of lack of confidence in the stroke, leading to pushes and pulls. And then that kind of spiraled because he went down, his answer throughout his life has always been, let me grab a different putter. Just let me look at something different for a minute. And that kind of snowballed out of control to the point to where I think he probably played tournaments with 7 or 8 different putters last year. Wow. And the thing that most people don't understand is, you know, the dynamics of how the ball is coming off the face is critical in a number of factors. It's critical in the speed delivery of the golf ball. Just simply how the ball rolls affects, obviously, like I mentioned, the ball speed. It starts to affect how much break you play. And so when you're changing those variables, you know, going from a different putter to a different putter every week, you know, they all have different centers of gravity. They all, you know, even though we're sitting here trying to pick putters with the exact same amount of loft, the exact lie angle, even though we were using different putters, the ball was coming off the face differently. Some were launching higher, some were launching lower, some are launching with top spin, some are launching with neutral spin. The ball speed starts changing. He's an aim point user. So now all of a sudden, all the reads that he's been playing his whole life with those slope values aren't really matching up because the ball is rolling differently. And then now we're in this sort of tailspin of, holy cow, we really only wanted to change like one variable, the look of the putter. And now we've changed all these different dynamics around how the ball, you know, is getting to the hole. And so we had to like completely pull back and go, you know, he went back to an older putter that it took me a while to convince him, like, you've got to stabilize something in this process. You can't keep changing equipment. You can't keep grasping at a straw and changing a putter and changing up your practice routines and the drills that you're doing. And so, you know, make a long story short, we went back to a putter that he putted with in college and then through when he won in Canada and when he won on the Corn Ferry Tour, and that he used early in his rookie season. So we went back to a putter that he was familiar with. The most important thing is that he was just committed to doing that. Okay. And it gave him time for everything to sort of settle down and get back to normal. And he's still using that putter, you know, as of, you know, last week. So he's in a better situation now to where when he explores using different equipment, he understands that domino effect of all those things that occurred. So he's in a better situation to navigate that. This won't be the last putter that he ever uses, I'm pretty sure. He's always been a tinkerer and a club changer, but he better understands that domino effect. And so he has more of a baseline for how he putts when he putts really well.
That's good. Do you think it will be, or would you like it to be the last putter he ever uses?
You know, I can't say on that. That one of the things that we've talked about. So in Aaron's putting history, he's always been a very streaky putter. He can get it going and start making birdies galore. And when he does that on a weekly, you know, week to week, it generally lasts the entire tournament. So when he has a hot putter, it goes on throughout the whole tournament, and he usually either wins or is, you know, at the top of the leaderboard. But when he's putting badly, it's, you know, we're missing 3 or 4 footers. And then we get in that, you know, that cycle again of lack of confidence. And then we start grasping at straws and we start changing putters and we start changing drills and routines. And so it's staying out of that, you know, perpetual, you know, snowball effect is my main concern. And, you know, I can't say that this will be his last putter, and I probably wouldn't even be, something he's tinkering with right now or wants to tinker with is the arm lock method that you see, not necessarily what Bryson's doing, but, you know, a lot of the other guys that have arm lock, he feels very stable and very comfortable with short putts with it. So that's, you know, if we're going to tackle one primary objective in his putting, it's to make sure that he's super confident sort of inside of 6 feet, because his distance control has always been, you know, fairly decent. It's been when he's been off, he's been really poor around the hole.
Got you. Thank you for sharing that, Jeff. That's a lovely message. And I think like the amateur golfers listen can sort of certainly, you know, although Aaron's a tour player, they can understand and relate to what you're saying. They have a bad putting day, go out and buy a new putter, try someone else, try this. And then all of a sudden we're in this spiral of hundred thoughts and God knows what's going on, just completely like our heads like. So it sounds like that it's a lovely message to right. This is the putter. This is the process. Let's stick to it. So I think it's key for all level of golfers. So that's cool for you to share.
There's a lot to be said for the guys out there who putt well. When you look at them, with the exception of DJ, like DJ could probably grab any putter and putt well with it. It just seems like I've seen him do it, but it seems like the guys who putt incredibly well, like the Snedekers of the world, generally have one putter and they go with it and they don't care what it looks like or feels like. And, they're very resistant to change when they find something that works.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Okay, let's talk about Victor. Let's talk about his putting and he uses aim point from what I've seen. How has aim point helped him? And then let's go into a bit more detail of his putting stats, perhaps.
Yeah. So when I first started working with him, one of the first few weeks I flew out to Stillwater and spent sorry, you there? Got a call in the middle of a phone call in the middle of that.
No worries.
I flew out to Stillwater and spent several days with him out there. And it was early in the relationship, so I was very much in the evaluation process of like figuring out who he is as a player and what skills he's missing or so on and so forth. And it didn't take me very long to figure out that we got out on the golf course and, obviously he's pure from tee to green, hitting every fairway, hitting every green. And I'm like, okay, this guy can hit it. This ain't the problem. Let's figure out like where the scores are leaking from and what are the gaps. So it was, about 3 holes into it, I started to look at some of his reads, and me being an aim point instructor and using it myself as a player, I would watch some of these reads that he was making and how he's lining up his ball and where he was aiming and just missing miserably low, not playing enough break. And I got to thinking to myself, okay, so this guy's obviously has a very good stroke. I've measured him on Sam Putt Lab. I mean, he's scoring in the high 90s across the board. He could start his ball in line and all the drills. Like, here's the disconnect. It was pretty obvious to me, like the green reading piece of it was where we needed to go. And so I introduced him to aim point. Kind of did it slowly. It wasn't a jam it down his throat kind of thing. It was like, hey, let me give you an alternative solution here. Let me open your eyes a little bit to some concepts, some green reading concepts. And he really liked it. So he's very analytical and he likes to know how everything works. And he, right away was kind of, okay, I think I could pursue this. And so we started to practice it. We started using it during practice rounds. He was excited about it, but he was still apprehensive and trying to deploy it in the tournament and, need to build up a level of confidence on the PGA Tour before you go out there and, you start really diving into aim point, especially when you've never been exposed to it or ever used it before. And so we used it for a few practice rounds. I think we used it at the tournament at Shadow Creek, but he didn't employ it in the tournament. Then the next week he went to Sherwood, used it in the practice rounds, didn't deploy it in the tournament. And I was like, okay, it's time to get after it here. We've done enough practicing. You should be confident enough. And we go to Houston, and that was one of the first weeks. Second week I was with him at a tournament. We did it every practice round day. And then when the tournament started, he was like, all right, I think I'm confident enough. I'm going to go with it. And he went out and had one of his best putting performances of the year. He was over 3. I think it was like 3.5 strokes gained putting on the week.
Wow.
And if he's putting anywhere near that level, watch out. I mean, he's dangerous because he's pure tee to green. And so, that he had a week off and then obviously went to Mayakoba and then used it. And it was amazing to watch him coming down the stretch with all that pressure on you, using aim point. And I mean, he looked like he'd been doing it his whole life. So he got very confident pretty quickly with it, really trusted it. The big role, his caddy played a huge role in it, in my opinion, because his caddy was all in on it from day one. It's like, this is going to change your game, Victor. This is going to help you win majors. And so he had that voice of his caddy who came to me and said, teach me how to do it. I want to practice it myself. I want to be good at it. I want to be a second voice for him out there if he needs it. And with his caddy being all in on it, it again gave him just even more confidence. And then from there, it was just off to the races. And I think it's something you'll see him do for the rest of his playing days, hopefully.
Happy days.
I say hopefully.
Yeah.
I say hopefully because I've taught a lot of guys aim point and they do really well with it. And the next thing I know, I look at them, they're not using aim point anymore. I'm like, what are we doing?
Why do you think that is, Jeff?
It's because they potentially go out and have a bad putting performance, and then it's they want instant gratification. A lot of the best players in the world do. If it doesn't work, they scrap it and they move on to the next thing, and they keep kind of searching a little bit. It's a bit of impatience, and I think that maybe some of those that scrap it truly don't understand it well enough. They haven't spent enough time in the system to really kind of understand the nuances of it, to where you kind of get spoiled a little bit, honestly, when you first start using aim point. And like, I know that I did. You start making all these putts and then you're like, God, this is so easy. Like, I expect to make every putt now, whether it's a 15-footer or 20-footer. It's like, this ball should be going in. I've got the read. I know I've got the read. So you get a little bit spoiled, and then I think the expectations start going up a bit, and then they go through a putting slump for whatever reason. Maybe they change their putter like Aaron did. Who knows? But then all of a sudden putts aren't going in. And I think that's why you see guys move away from it.
Yeah. Interesting. The, just going back to the start of you talking about Victor there, you said I was in the evaluation process. So a new player comes to you, be it a tour player or any level of golfer, unless the process is different. Talk us a little bit through that evaluation stage.
Yeah, it really depends on what level they're playing at. If it's a beginning golfer, there's not much of an evaluation process that will generally take place on the range. But if it's a junior golfer or college player, I like to get them out on the course first, just to see them play and compete and see what their tendencies are. If it's a tour player, I pretty much force all my tour players, if they approach me and they want to work to me, I make them come to Vegas. And I do that because I want to get some time with them away from all of the noise of the PGA Tour. There's so much going on out there, and it's pretty difficult to start a new relationship and, get into some deep concepts and stuff at a tour event. So if they're serious about working with me, I'll have them come to Vegas. And if they're not willing to do that, then I pretty much pass on the opportunity, because, in the past I've tried to start new relationships out on tour, a tournament week, and you just don't get the level of buy-in and commitment from the player that's required to sometimes change whatever, poor pattern they may have going on. So for me, that evaluation process is take them out on the course, measure them, obviously with some diagnostic stuff with TrackMan or Sam Putt Lab or 3D or, pressure plates, whatever data I feel like I need to collect to get a more holistic answer or solution for the player. That's what is pretty much my sort of observation process.
Brilliant. Love that. Just on Patrick Rodgers, you mentioned you started working on other areas of the game away from sort of swing. You're done with swing changes with him now, or not done, but for now. Talk us through, what those sort of fine tuning, because like all these guys they're all three are in the top 50 in the world.
So no, Victor is, I believe, 14th in the world right now, and Patrick and Aaron are just outside the top 100 right now in the world. So
okay.
Those guys have some work to do.
But they're very close, right? So like the difference between 100th to 10th is probably only a 10th of different parts of the game, isn't it? So talk us through that with what Patrick's.
Yeah. So Patrick, when I looked at his game, so we spent about a year or a year and a half kind of rebuilding his golf swing when we first got together.
Okay.
He'd got in some really poor habits, really was struggling with his ball striking, especially off the tee. There were a lot of penalty shots and things of that nature in there. And it led to a really low made cut percentage, missing way too many cuts for a player of his caliber. So, step one was sort of rebuilding the golf swing a little bit, getting him back to being, an elite driver of the golf ball like he was in college. Patrick's an incredible athlete. He's blessed with a lot of strength and speed. He's a big, tall, rangy guy. Has the capability to sort of take a golf course apart with a driver. And he's just a world-class putter. He's finished last year. He finished top 10 on tour in strokes gained putting, and then the year before that, I think he was 15th or 16th at year end. So always been a great putter. Obviously uses aim point as well. Has a great system for how he does things. So just relying on putting and off the tee, his prowess off the tee. I felt like, man, if we could just get a little bit better with short irons, wedges, and we can just get a little bit better around the greens, you're looking at a guy that potentially could be a top 10 player in the world. So, for his development with the wedges, it was just better managing the flight of the golf ball, a little lower trajectory, better managing distance control. That was a bit inconsistent. Some of that was due to how he actually his mechanics, his full swing mechanics led to being a bit of a poor wedge player. And then some of that was just practice habits and routines. So we really kind of attacked that. And then in terms of short game perspective, it was really more so developing other shots. Patrick had gotten very comfortable playing the ball low to the ground, a lot of bump and runs, that type of stuff. And you're playing tougher golf courses and majors when you got to start elevating the ball and slow the ball down around the greens. He found it pretty tricky to be able to pitch the ball. So developing that second arsenal of shots around the greens is kind of where our focus is right now.
Love it. Well, thank you for being so open with the three players there. And it's a wonderful insight, for myself, and I'm sure the listeners enjoyed that. So do appreciate it. And they're exciting players, aren't they? So
yeah, absolutely. Fun to work with and fun to watch play.
I bet. Happy days. So let's come back a little bit to you, Jeff. So what I want to know is, how do you deal with your players miss the cut? They're unhappy. They're really pissed off. You've had a bad day. How do you deal? You go back to your hotel room on your own, probably spend a lot of time in hotels and flights, and probably almost too much time to reflect sometimes. Mm-hmm. Talk us through how you manage your self.
Yeah, I would say when they miss the cut, they're probably not anywhere near as mad as I am. So, because I take it personally, I really do. When I have a player that struggles or is having a difficult time, I always look at it as a reflection of what I'm doing or not doing. So I will sort of but I will question. I'm always questioning my methods, my teaching. Did I present that the best way possible? Did I get to the root cause right away? Did I give the very best lesson or the very, very best information that I could give? And so there is a lot of reflection internally. And, like I said earlier, when, people may find this hard to believe, but when you are working with a player, there is a bit of trial and error. And even at the highest level, you as a coach, you think you may have defined the easiest path for that player to go down in terms of limited number of changes, but you might not have. And then they may not have the capacity to do what you want them to do. So you're always trying to find workarounds. And so that reflection upon myself after a miscut or a streak of miscuts or just a streak of poor performance, you're always thinking, you're always, as a coach, you're always putting it back on yourself and not necessarily on the player, and saying, look, how can I do this better? How can I get through this player better? Or how do I need to course correct here and find a bit of a different avenue or road for this player to go down? So it's tough mentally, I find myself looking at, PGA Tour app on my phone too much, too often, looking at, hole by hole play. And those are things that, I try to tell myself, just, stay away from and look at the results at the end of the day and then go from there. But it's a challenge. I
bet. I think that self-reflection, though, is probably what makes you great, because you're not like, oh, well, they just didn't do what I said. You're looking at what you do and evolving that and improving that. So having that growth mindset is probably why you are, where you're at today, and long may that continue. And I'm sure it will. So that's good to hear. Good to hear, Jeff.
Thank you.
Talk to me about amateurs versus professionals. Now, you've taught a lot of golfers of all levels, right? It's not just elite golfers. You coach, it's all levels, and you've been a coach for a few years now. What is the main differences you see between amateurs and pros?
Obviously the biggest difference generally is their athleticism and level of feel or proprioception, if you will. Those are the physical gifts, the physical differences. In terms of other variables that are controllables, I would say time, work ethic. Amateurs, they've got lives they have to lead. They have jobs they have to go to. They have wives and children and all these other distractions, to where, those things take up focus and require their time. Whereas with professionals, it's their job, and they got to go spend, 8 hours a day doing this task or doing this job to get better at it, to provide a livelihood for their families. So amateurs, I don't think there's a difference in terms of will or desire. I think it's just a difference in capacity, to be quite honest. They don't have the time and energy to go do the training, work on their bodies, nutrition, all the different levels of things that go into be a professional golfer. Amateurs just aren't, they're not capable. They just don't have the capacity to do that stuff.
Totally agree. The one thing you just said about that they still have that desire to improve, and I know I've got guys listening now who are like, I really want to improve. So have you got some low hanging fruit for the guys listening, guys and girls? What are a couple of tips, or I say tips, I hate tips, but any advice, something they could go and try to take away that to improve?
I get asked this question all the time, so I got a pretty patent answer here that is just based on my experience. Amateur golfers don't do enough of two things. Number one, they don't hit their driver enough in practice. That's the number one thing I would tell an amateur golfer to do is, if you want to get better at the game, instead of going to the driving range and hitting 7 irons and 8 irons all day long, so what kind of a waste of time? Go hit your driver. I know it requires a lot from you physically. It's not easy to sit there and hit driver after driver after driver for an amateur. Tour players can sit there all day long and do it. But if you want to become a better player, work on your driver more. That's gaining distance, gaining accuracy. That's number one. And then number two, they don't spend enough time on the putting green. If you can hit the ball well off the tee and you can hit it, an adequate distance, and you can save shots on the greens, you're probably going to be a pretty low handicap, to be quite honest. Where players throw away shots is They're jacking their driver out of bounds. They don't hit it far enough. They're taking penalty shots off the tee. They're taking multiple chips to get on the green, multiple shots to get out of a bunker. And then when they get on the greens, they're three putting. They're missing short putts. Their distance control is not very good. The average amateur golfer's proximity to the hole is going to be further away than a tour player. And a tour player is going to average about 30 feet on the season. So an amateur is probably going to be somewhere, 35 to 40 feet. So they don't spend enough time in practice on the greens, and they don't hit enough drivers on the range and in practice.
Love it. Love it. Music to my ears. What's your favorite putting game or drill with what's your go-to? That's just
We've got so many of those. You
can give us many.
Probably my favorite one is, I'm big on, obviously developing essentially three skills in putting. Can you control the speed of your golf ball, or touch control? Can you start the ball on line? And obviously, can you read a green? So those are the things that I'll try to build drills around. And so, for example, like one of my go-tos, like distance control drills, is my message to them clearly is that when you hit a shot, when you hit a sand wedge, or you hit a 5-iron, they have an expectation of a dispersion, right? Well, putting is no different. There should be an expectation of dispersion that you can control your golf ball in terms of the distance of it, right? So I will create a drill using like some of the little flat ball markers, and I'll put tees down at 10, 20, 30 feet, and I'll have this on both sides of the ball marker. So I'll have it going uphill one direction, and I'll have it going downhill one direction. So they've got putts uphill from 10, 20, and 30 feet, and downhill 10, 20, and 30 feet. And so from every distance that they're putting from, so say the 10-foot tee, I will have them create a dispersion that's basically 10% of that distance. So I'll have them put that ball markers down 1 feet apart. So from that 10-foot tee, I'll have them roll the ball and try to stop it in that 1 foot wide area. And I'll make them hit 3 successive putts inside of that gate, if you will. Mm-hmm. And then they'll move to the other side. So they'll go downhill 10 feet, switch to the other side, go uphill 10 feet. And then they go to 20 feet, and I have them widen out the distance between the two ball markers, 10% of 20 feet. Boom. So now they've got, as they move further away from further away from the hole, essentially, the tolerance is remaining the same. So I'm trying to get them to create a 10% dispersion from whatever, and they can take it back way further than 30 feet if they want to, but that's just kind of the range I'll have guys practice on. So the idea behind that is, if you can control your dispersion of your golf ball on the greens, plus or minus 10%, your distance control is going to be fairly adequate. When you get out there and you're thinking, I'm lagging the ball from 50 feet, if I can get this somewhere within a 5-foot circle of the hole, I've done my job. And so it's just reinforcing, like, that's the expectation. If you can develop that behavior, you're not going to 3-putt very much. So to piggyback on that distance control drill, I'll have them do just a variety of drills around the hole from generally the 4, 5, 6 foot range. I'm pretty big on guys not practicing 3-footers. I see it at my club all the time. Someone's just sitting there ramming 3-footers in mindlessly over and over and over. And when it comes to an amateur golfer, as a coach, you have to understand they have a limited amount of practice time, very limited amount. Average tour player makes 99% of a 3-footer. So why are we going to sit here and practice 3-footers all day long when you're probably going to make the majority of them? So I try to stretch them out, get them outside their comfort zone, that 4, 5, 6 foot range. Mm-hmm. And I'll do a number of sort of spiral drills, a number of just drills in that range. So I target the distance control aspects or the touch control, and I target really around the hole. In terms of maintenance on their stroke, I think block practice comes into, should be a staple of every player's development at some point. We do a lot of random practice, but at some point when technique is breaking down and you need to establish a new pattern, block practice is going to play a critical role in that. So I see a lot of guys doing starting line drills, chalk lines, gates, putting templates. There's just a lot of different variety and starting line stuff. So I think that is always a fixture in things that I do with players as well.
Brilliant. Love that. I like the uphill and downhill one where the 10%, because I think a lot of golfers perhaps misconception is that like from 20 foot, they've got to get the ball past the hole. But the reality is if they hit a 20-foot putt a foot short, it's world class in many ways.
You know, I've explained that concept to a number of golfers and they just kind of look at me like I was crazy. And they're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to get, you know, the ball has no chance of going in if it's short of the hole. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of not your objective here. You know, your objective from 30 feet is to two putt. And so let's solidify that and not be worried about leaving 30 footers short, you know? So it's just it's a shift in mindset for a lot of players. And when they can do it, they'll definitely see their scores go down.
100%. We'll hopefully keep educating them. So we'll get the message through. It'll take a while. Okay. Yeah. Talk us a little bit through, I'm just very conscious of your time there, but talk us through your poker career. And what I'm intrigued about is how you now relate the skills you learned or you still do play poker to playing golf or coaching golf or
Yeah. I mean, poker was, you know, something that I grew up playing my whole life. And, you know, my family in Tennessee was always had a deck of cards laying around. Holidays, we would get together and play gin and just other various of poker. So, you know, even with playing with my grandmother when I was probably, 6 or 7 years old, that was probably the first time I was introduced to a card game. We were either playing hearts or rummy or something like that. So, you know, it wasn't until I got, out of college where I started to play live poker when I moved to California. I had some opportunity. I had some friends that were into the game and I had a chance to go into some of the casinos and watch and sit behind some really good players. And, you know, it caught my interest. So I started reading every book that I could find. I had other mutual friends that were playing the game. So we were always on the phone, like talking about hands and talking through strategy and scenarios. It really caught my attention because it was something that baffled me. I was not very good at it in the beginning. And I knew that there were answers. There were sort of mathematical answers to every play and almost every scenario could be sort of figured out. And that was the attraction to me. And so I kept playing and I got better. And golf, it was great because golf was something that allowed me to teach lessons in the morning and daytime and play poker at night. And so, you know, it kind of evolved to where there was a number of years there where I was making a living, essentially playing live poker. And it kind of picked up a little bit when I moved to Las Vegas from California, because Vegas is obviously the mecca of poker. All the best players, the casinos, all the best games are here. And you can move up to various levels of the game here. And so there's always an opportunity. There's always a game. And you can play as big as you want and gamble as high as you want. So for me, the thing about poker is a lot of the plays are counterintuitive. And in golf, a lot of the plays are counterintuitive. And people, give you an example of that. People think with a wedge, if you hit down on the ball, it makes it go up. And it's really not, it's counterintuitive. The more you hit down on it, you're actually going to lower the launch angle. The more you hit up on your driver, the higher you're going to launch it. And so there's so many parallels between the disciplines of being a very good poker player and being a very, very good golfer. From a strategy perspective, there's a lot of parallels, making the correct mathematical play, so to speak. And a lot of the best players in the world do this day in and day out without even really thinking about it. But if you are an inquisitive mind like myself or even Victor, you can start to see, a lot of the parallels in the games.
Fascinating. It's not really a game I've played, but it's just fascinating to hear that. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Okay, Jeff, I'll let you go. Can you just share with us, just to finish with, like, Course Kings? I know that's a big sort of a great platform for all golfers to go out and check out. Where guys can find you on social media and etc.
Yeah, so CourseKings.com is a website that I've developed, and it has a lot of instructional content. And I've brought in a lot of smart guys to help me with it. And there's guys teaching putting, there's guys teaching short game, full swing, and I think these guys are some of the best in the world. So when I created it, I thought it was important to create some variety in the information. I don't think anybody wants to sit there and listen to me talk about every part of the game of golf. So I wanted to bring in some experts, from around the world, and I'm going to continue to evolve it and add, different coaches. When I started, it was two-phase. Number one, I wanted to create a scenario to where, I saw an amateur golfer one time who was slicing their ball, want to get some information, and they went on YouTube and they typed in how to stop slicing, and like 8,000 videos popped up. And instantly this guy was lost. It was like, holy cow, what do I watch? Where do I start? Like, this is nuts. Like, okay, I got to come up with some kind of a streamlined website here and go shoot this content that will give players sort of a baseline of, okay, here's your starting point, and here's how you move through this as you develop as a player. And it'll be a more centralized network of information, so to speak. It'll be streamlined a bit. And then I thought to myself, it'd be also great to go out and find sort of up and coming coaches who are maybe not that notable yet, and give them a platform to showcase what they can do, what they teach, their philosophies on the game. It would help them build their business, help them fill up their lesson book, help them grow. Because that was something that, I wish I would have had that opportunity at an early developmental stage in my teaching career. I was lucky to be around some very smart people. So this is kind of my way of, like, I don't know, giving back to the profession, so to speak, to give these other guys a voice and an opportunity to share their message with everybody out there in cyberland, so to speak. And so CourseKings.com, got tons of content on there, shooting some new stuff here pretty soon for the new year. And then I'm obviously pretty active on social media, more so Instagram than any other platform. At Radar Golf Pro is my handle on Instagram and Twitter. And so those are pretty much where you can find me pretty easily.
Happy days. Have they given you a little blue tick yet on Instagram for being famous?
No, man. I don't know what it takes to get one of those things, but
you should have one of them by now. 60,000 followers.
It's funny. What's funny about the whole thing is when that all started, I didn't even know what a handle was. And I came up with Radar Golf Pro because I was using a TrackMan a lot at the time. And I kind of built a reputation for understanding TrackMan a little bit. And it was great. It was a curse and it was a gift because no one knows who the hell Jeff Smith is, but they all know who they know who Radar Golf Pro is. It's the funniest thing. Like, a couple of years ago, I'm over at the Open Championship, and we're in Scotland, and I'm walking to, this was at Royal Troon, the tournament was there, and I'm walking to the bus station to go to the tournament, and it's pouring down rain. It's like 7:00 in the morning in Scotland. I'm under this umbrella, bundled up because it's freezing cold and raining, and wind's blowing sideways.
That doesn't sound like Scotland.
I'm walking to this bus station, and this car pulls up next to me. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm about to get shot or whacked here, Window rolls down. This kid's about 10 years old, sticks his head out the window and goes, "Hey, Radar Golf Pro." And I started laughing. Like, how the hell did this kid pick me out from, walking down the street in Scotland? And it's like, it's funny that everyone knows you by your social media handle now, but not really your name.
Interesting. Well, long may it continue that you grow that, and the Course Kings is great, and Preston Coombs is a great guy on there as well. So I know he's a cool cat, man. He's off his head. He's good.
For sure.
Awesome. All right, Jeff, thanks a lot for coming on. Appreciate it. Keep what you're doing. Thank you for, continuing sort of pushing the boundaries and growing our industry as well. So, thank you.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
No problem at all. Speak to you soon, Jeff.
All right.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.